And I don't know, when I was younger and computers were just starting to come out, it was a well-known and established maxim that with computers, it's garbage in, garbage out. What you put into them is all you're going to get out of them. So this idea of an all-knowing intelligence, it's a controlled form of garbage in. And this is what Elon Musk was warning people about. Hey, welcome back to Frank and Angie's Everything That Affects Retire Early Lifestyle, where we encourage you to get off the treadmill as soon as possible. And we're a testimony to that. Just look at the wonderful beaches that we're at right here. We've done a lot of world travel too, and we're going to give you some whoppers. No worries on that. We're going to give you quite a few whoppers today, so hang out for those. Interesting whoppers as usual. People are starting to like them, and of course the platform we're on doesn't necessarily agree, but you know, we kind of know where that's heading. Speaking of which, that leads me into the one of the whoppers. There's some nationalization going on. Do you remember back in the day when we used to get those Live Abroad newsletters, and it's like there were different gurus that were partitioning out the globe. It's like each section of the globes, and in this case it was South America. There was a guru for this side of South America. Hey guys, how's it going? And then on the other side of South America, there was a different guru, and they were singing the praises of the freedom and the newfound, you know, constitutional government, and how they'd turned the corner and gone from dictatorship all the way back to freedom, and how they were the freest country, you know, Chile, freest country in the world. How many good people went down to Chile because of all those wonderful, and we consider it ourselves. I'm not trying to fault people for doing that. Who doesn't want to, you know, sit there and accept good news? Who doesn't, really? So, but look at how overnight we have friends in Chile, and they tell us the nitty-gritty of what's really happening beyond just what you're seeing in the headlines. And even in the headlines you're seeing, which leads into my whoppers for today, is that our contact in Chile said that they're looking to go totally communist, even with the Constitution, as if that gives communism some sort of, I don't know, validity somehow on paper, which is just ridiculous. But anyway, they're nationalizing their lithium production, and that just means the government's taking it by force. It's the form of communism, and it just makes it sound official by using words like nationalizing. And anytime you take what doesn't belong to you by force, let's just call it what it is, thievery. But what it does is it usually makes things, the communists aren't known for being very good at these kinds of things, although we are led to believe that they are by the misinformation media and all that. The lithium production is a substantial cost of an electric vehicle. And if you didn't notice, Tesla stock has been tanking lately because their margins have been shrinking. And so Tesla is being squeezed because the cost of lithium is going to be harder to obtain and cost more. And as the article said, Chile stuns the markets by nationalizing the lithium industry overnight. And that's the thing about, you know, living abroad that a lot of people aren't really privy to, is how overnight things can change, and it's a serious matter. Whenever there's a new thing on the market that's useful in some way, of course there's going to be a certain amount of, you know, acceptance in the market. So it's going to make some sales, and things look really rosy. But as far as the long-term picture is what I'm saying, the cost of these lithium batteries is so huge. I personally I like gas vehicles, and I know that back in the 70s, you know, we believed the things we were being told about there's no gas, and I remember all the long lines of people we were told we were running out of oil, and all these things we read about that are just turned out to be fairy tales, which leads me into the next whopper. Because Elon Musk, this AI thing keeps coming up. People keep wanting to talk about this AI thing. Now, there's a tendency for the general public to downplay the AI thing, but when you consider the idea of incrementalism and how sinister it is when it's working against the people, for example, this does not surprise me as a new information. We all know that Google and these platforms are trying to get us into a corner where every single thing we do is controlled. Just today, Musk is quoted as saying that he used to be very close friends with the founder of Google, and apparently the whole idea behind Google all along, since the very beginning, was to have this all-knowing, intelligent AI that people rely on. And haven't we been groomed for years into thinking, people even use the word, oh, Google it, and we just, through the process of incrementalism, we sit here and get suckered into a situation where we unknowingly, even I had some friends that years ago said to me, gee whiz, if we would have had Google when we were growing up, we could have quit school. And I don't know, when I was younger and computers were just starting to come out, it was a well-known and established maxim that with computers, it's garbage in, garbage out. What you put into them is all you're going to get out of them. So this idea of an all-knowing intelligence, it's a controlled form of garbage in. So in other words, it's like you have a library at your disposal that talks to you or that does things, but it can be controlled into, and this is what Elon Musk was warning people about, is that it can be used to attempt to control. And a lot of people are easy to control, you know, because we do things like only accept one source for information, like when we get into, you know, we're creatures of habit, and all of a sudden all we do is we want to know something and we just go Google it because it's just a lazy way of doing it. It's simple, quick, and easy, and that's all we think we need to do. But this day and age, we've got to dig deep while sluggards sleep, because we're slowly being incrementalized into a future that we don't want anything to do with if we knew exactly what was happening. Moving on to the next whopper. Some of these may be more whopperish than others. It just depends on, you know, it just depends on, you know, what kind of a day you're having, and, you know, what's important to you on that day. But every single one of these things stand out to me, like this idea that old ways of doing things, like you see this article that says that your parents' way of handling finances, well, that's just old and dinosaurish. And then we're all put into the same category, like, you know, we all do the same thing, and of course nothing could be further from the truth. And the thing about finances is that, you know, there are things that are beyond your control. Life isn't just so measured, and, you know, you can sit here and measure and plan and, you know, have all these things, but in the end you really have no real control over your life. Anything can happen at any time. Point of fact, I used to be interested years ago in, this was way before the internet and before, nowadays everything is on YouTube and everybody's doing everything. But remember that back then we didn't have that. So that when you were thinking these things, you didn't really have a place to go to watch other people to do it. And one of the things I wanted to do was actually live self-sufficiently on a boat. kind of like that movie Waterworld, you know. And that was one of the ideas that I had in my head that I kind of wanted to do. And I found this book by this author, and he was the only book of its kind, and it was really way ahead of its kind. Now, there were always sailors, but this guy was way ahead of everybody. He was figuring out all the little self-sufficient things with all the new technology, and this was in the early 80s. Back then, it was the newest thing, and you know, having solar panels on a boat, and even having ways to spray plants, and he was just way ahead of his time. It was a fascinating read. Things changed in my life, and I didn't get a chance to do that, but I later tried to find that author. That's what this story is leading to, and it turns out he had plans to do this. This is how he wanted to live his life. He wanted to be a water nomad on a sailboat, and he was going to implement all these new technologies to do it. And it was an amazing idea. But it turns out that he had gotten into an accident. I didn't know about this until I searched and searched and searched later, because I never saw anything about him anymore. But apparently he got into an accident and became disabled and in a wheelchair, and all of those dreams went out the window. And John, just to say that we don't really have control, and you see these articles online that make it sound like, why, gee whiz, you know, the older generation, they're so passe, you know. You know, the way to be really smart nowadays is just to do all of these things and do all of those things, and do it this way and do it that way, which is perfectly fine. I mean, look, we all need to have things we want to achieve in life and goals that we want to achieve, but let's not forget that everybody doesn't fit in neatly into a little square where, you know, the older generation is somebody you shouldn't listen to. That's something we don't promote on this channel, because the quote-unquote older generation isn't, the people aren't all the same. There's different people out there. Which means they could actually be somebody that has quite a bit of wisdom, and somebody that you actually want to get to know and listen to, because they might actually have some pretty amazing stories to tell. How do you like that? But in our culture, we practically worship the rich, don't we? It's all about how much money. But we see that ancient scriptures were actually told that you've got this little old man over there in this little town out in the woods, that you've got this city that's being besieged and nobody knows what to do, but this little poor old man knows what to do, but nobody will pay any attention because he's poor. Let me know in the comments what you think about these stories. They're just wisdom and truth in wisdom. And so, you know, judge not. That's the idea here. And yeah, we're in Mexico. We're at the beach. We did a lot of travel trailering, and I see how much people really enjoy their travel trailering on YouTube nowadays. You have people that really felt oppressed in their 9-to-5 jobs, and now they're in a travel trailer, you know, and they're just nomadic, and they're just living the life of their dreams, and they're just so amazingly so much happier than ever. And I like seeing people when they're living out their dreams and they're happy, because we're one of those people that have done those things. We traveled all around the USA in a travel trailer in our 30s. You know, we homesteaded in USA. We've traveled the world. We're barely 62. You see on social media, the people that get a lot of views are the ones that talk about how much money they've amassed and this figure that they've achieved and what they can do, but yet really they have given up most of their life because they're just now, and I'm not trying to discourage anyone if that's where you are. I'm just saying I'm actually trying to encourage people to live the life they were meant to live sooner, not later, and not buy into the delayed life plan. That's intentional. The delayed. How do you like that? Delayed. Leave me some comments on what you think about that.